Hi beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome. Today we'll be drafting and sewing this gorgeous Milkmaid dress, and this is a beginner friendly tutorial. So if you already know how to draft your basic bodice, you can skip to the part where we started to draft the cups for the Milkmaid. If you are here for the first time, please subscribe and turn on notifications to get notified whenever I upload new videos. To draft the front, I'll go ahead and draw a straight line which will serve as my shoulder line. And there I'll be marking my shoulder measurement divided by 2. And the shoulder measurement I have here is 16 divided by 2 is 8 inches. And on that 8-inch mark, I am going to drop my shoulder by 1 inch, which will serve as my shoulder slant. Next, I'll be marking my armhole depth, which is my bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. And after marking that down, I'll just go ahead and make sure my lines are straight. So I'm cross-checking to make sure my lines are straight. And then I'll mark that down here. The next thing, I am going to mark my shoulder to bust point line. And my shoulder to bust point is 13 inches. I'm going to mark that down here before going ahead to draw a line connecting my dots. I also go ahead and mark my shoulder to under bust as well as my half length at this point. The shoulder to under bust I am using is 16 inches and the half length is 18 inches. So I just go ahead and mark that down. And then I'll connect all my dots together. So I'll just go ahead and label that down so you understand what I'm trying to do. So this is my bust line, my under bust line, and also my waistline. So the next thing, I am going to impute my darts at this point. So from the fold line, I'm going to mark 4.5 inches inwards, which will serve as my dart line, and I'm going to mark that down from the bust to my waist line. And on this bust line, I'll drop my dart by 1 inch, and on the waistline, I'll mark 3/4 of an inch on both sides like so, before going ahead to connect my 1 inch dropped bust to the 3/4 inch mark on the waist like so. I'll then work on the horizontal measurements, where I'll divide my round measurements and mark on each of the lines. I'll first of all divide my bust measurement, which is 45 by 4, and here I have 11.5. Next is my waist measurement, which is 36 divided by 4, and I have 9 inches, plus the 1 inch which I took in for my dart, making it 10 inches. And I'll also add my 1 inch sewing allowance all round from the bust to the waist like so, and then connect all my dots together. After marking all that down, I'll measure the armhole length and then divide that into 2. I'll be using my tape to divide. This is how you divide with your tape. And then I'll find the midpoint of my armhole. And from the midpoint, I'll go in by 1/2 inch. And then I'll connect the 1/2 inch with a curve, creating my armhole like so. And whatever we have at our bust measurement, we're going to extend it to our chest line. Here we have 12.5 inches, and that's what we'll mark on our chest line. I'll just extend this line and then extend my line upwards to meet the chest line like so. I'll also extend this line here. And to draft the Milkmaid design, you mark in 1 inch from your bust line and then connect to the under bust line with a curve. And from this point of the under bust, you go up by 3/4 of an inch and curve it like so. The next thing we'll do is to mark 7 inches downwards from the shoulder line. The trick to this is if you have a bust of 45 inches upwards, you measure down 7 inches from the shoulder. But if the bust measurement is below 45, you will measure 6 inches. So I'll just mark my 7 inches mark. And of course, we're also going to extend this line upwards like so. We'll also add our allowance because we have to fold it in to create casing where the straps will pass through. We'll be adding 2 inches to this point, like so. We'll also add the joining allowance below the waist, and I'll be adding 1 inch at this point, and then I'll connect all my dots together. After that, we can cut out our front piece. Now we'll work on the back pattern, and I'll use the front to draft the back. I'll first of all introduce a fresh pattern paper and then mark in 2 inches, which will serve as our zipper allowance. I'll also draw a straight line at the top of our back piece to aid our drafting. Next is to place the front pattern which we have drafted on the back pattern, and you know the back doesn't have a casing allowance, so we'll fold in this front casing allowance before placing it on top of the back. But before we do that, we'll add our ½ inch folding allowance at the top of our back piece like so. I'll just go ahead and make sure my lines are straight. Everything has to be equal. I'll then place my front piece on top of my back, and I'll use my sellotape to hold it down so it doesn't move about while cutting. So after holding it down, I can go ahead and cut, but before I cut out, I'll extend my waistline to the zipper allowance which I added, and then I'll cut it out. So guys, this is what the front and the back piece looks like. I'll go ahead and transfer my lines to the back so I can draft the dart at the back. So I'll mark down my bust line like so and separate them. And you know, we marked in 4.5 inches at the front for our dart. I also mark that down here for the back. So after marking my 4.5 inches, I'll then rule that out, and on both sides of my waist I'll mark in 3/4 of an inch, just like we did for the front, and then I'll connect that straight the bust point. If you notice, I did not drop my bust point by 1 inch at this point. I marked it straight to the bust point. And on this shoulder line, I went ahead to slant it by 1 inch towards the zip area, like so, just to give it that fitting at the back after sewing. Now that we're done working on our back piece, we'll bring the front piece and create the Milkmaid design on our front pattern. And to do that, we'll first of all separate the cup from the down part, because we are not going to be slashing and spreading the down part. We're only going to work on the cup part of our blouse. And then we're also going to cut out our darts at this down part, making it 3 pieces in total. And this is what it looks like after cutting it out. The next step is to slash and spread. I'll first of all place this aside because I won't be working on this right now, and then I'll mark straight lines vertically across my cup. I'll be marking 2 inches across like so. And I'll go ahead to draw out the lines before numbering that down into 5 pieces. I'm going to place the cut piece on another pattern paper to slash and spread, because with the Milkmaid dress style, you see that the cup area is actually gathered. I'll then draw a straight line on here to aid the slashing and spreading. But before I place that on top, I'll cut across the lines that I've drawn with my scissors. So I'll be placing my cut pieces on this straight line which I marked here. The reason why I marked that straight line is to aid my placement of these pieces. And you know, on the straight line, I could say it's my bust line, because I'll be placing the cut pieces at that bust point on this straight line which I have marked like so. And I'll be marking 1 inch in between each of these pieces, and I'll be holding that down with my sellotape like so. 1 inch. I'll just do this for all the 5 pieces. I'll just go ahead and connect all these pieces together like so. Connect them all round before going ahead to add my 1/2 inch sewing allowance all round as well, and then I'll cut it out. So guys, this is the end result of our cutting. This is our 3 pieces for the front, and for the back I went ahead to extend my darts like so, and then I am going to cut it out. So guys, I went ahead to transfer all my patterns to my fabric, and I cut the front, the back pieces, all my pieces on this fabric like so. I cut 2 pieces for the left and the right cup. I also cut 2 pieces for the left and the right back pieces. I also cut 2 pieces for this. And for this one, I cut it on fold, as you can see. So I'll just place this aside and work on the down part of my dress. To draft the down piece, I went ahead to fold my fabric in a diagonal manner like this. I'll then draw a straight line which will serve as my waistline, and then mark down 10 inches, which is the hip line. And I'll impute my hip measurement at this hip point like so. My hip measurement divided by 4. I'm going to mark that down here. And I'll also impute my waist measurement on this waist line like so. And you know the front piece has a slit, so I'll also be adding 1 inch allowance by the side, which will serve as my slit allowance. And don't forget to add the 1 inch sewing allowance as well, making it 2 inches in total. So I'm going to connect all my mark points like so. And the next thing I'll do is to impute the length of my down part of the dress, and the length I'm using here is 33 inches. I'll just make sure I get that accurately across 33 inches like so, and then I'll connect the points together, and then I'll cut it out at this point. So I went ahead and cut both the front and the back pieces the same, because you know we added and 1-inch slit allowance to the front, and that will also serve as our zipper allowance for the back. So everything is cut the same. So I'm going to place that aside and work on the front slits of our down part of the dress. So to mark the slits, I went ahead and folded my front pattern into 2, and the slit is going to be marked on the left side of the down part. So remember, we marked 4.5 inches for the dart when we were cutting the upper part. So I'll just go ahead and transfer that 4 inches that mark we marked to the down part as well. So I'm just marking 4.5 inches here, which will serve as my slit. And after marking that down, I'll go ahead and connect all my lines together like so. And then I'm going to open up my skirt because I don't want to cut two, because you know my fabric is folded. I don't want to cut the 2 pieces together. So I'll first of all open it up and cut only one side of the down piece like so. And then we are done cutting the down part of our dress. The next thing, I'm going to work on the sleeve of our dress. To cut the sleeve, I went ahead and folded my fabric into 2, and this will serve as the length of my sleeve. And I'm also going to fold again into 2, and this is the width of my sleeve. To get the width, I measured my arm measurement, my round arm measurement. I'll just multiply that by 2 and then I'll fold. But since it's on fold, if you measure it, this is exactly my arm measurement. So I'm going to mark the length of my sleeve, which is 10.5 all round, and I'm going to connect that down like this and then cut it out like so. After cutting it out, I'm going to open it up because the down part is not supposed to be closed. It has to be opened. So I'm just going to open that like so. I'm going to separate it carefully. Open it up and separate it totally. And now we have 2 pieces, 2 pieces for each of the sleeves. I'll then place the up piece at the armhole to my sleeve like so, because you know I am going to be joining both of them together and I need them to be the same. So after placing that out, I'm going to cut it out, and now I have the same armhole, and while sewing it will end up being accurate. That is the aim of placing the up to the sleeve. So guys, I went ahead and I joined my pieces together. This was the side where I cut on fold. So as I've opened it, as you can see, it's in full. I joined my darts together and I cut 2 pieces of this, which I'm going to be using one as the lining. I also went ahead and I gathered the bust area only downwards. I gathered downwards where I'll be attaching it to this area. As you can see, this side is not gathered. I'm going to stitch it down from the side all through to this gathered part to the middle of my top, and I'm going to do same for both busts, for both bust area. So this is the back. I went ahead and I cut 2 pieces and turned one as the lining. I joined the up with the 1/2 inch allowance I left, and I also closed the zipper area and left the side open where I will be joining it to the front to give it a neat finishing. So this is the back. I went ahead and I also joined my darts together. Also, this is my sleeve. I went ahead and created a casing where I'll be running my elastic through, and I cut a band which is the length of the her arm length. So I'll be joining this to the hem of the sleeve, and I'll also run this 1/2 inch elastic around this casing which I've created. So guys, that is it basically. Also, before I forget, I went ahead and I joined the down part of this dress. This is it. I joined the sides with my 1-inch allowance I left, and I also, this is the slit area. Hope you can see this clearly. This is the slit area. I went ahead and I joined it to the point where my client wants her slits to end. So I did it about 12 inches and I left the side opening. I'm going to be holding it down with my hemming gum, and also I'm going to hem it down. So guys, this is the finished look of our Milkmaid dress. I went ahead to give it a neat press and I finished up my slit with a hemming gum. As you can see, it is neatly finished. I weaved it neatly and the dress is ready to be rocked. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.